here. This is the first Mayoral Forum of the year. We're excited to be hosting it. See, I didn't see any of our other elected officials out here, so I'm going to skip this part. So, this evening is all about the candidates for mayor of Albuquerque. I'm stating the obvious, but one of these candidates will be our mayor.
Yes.
Our moderator this evening is Jonathan Siegel. Jonathan is a former police oversight board member and former commissioner of the Environmental Planning Commission. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, Jonathan. Jonathan will go over our rules.
Thank you, David, and thank you to the Greater Gardner Neighborhood Association and the North Valley Coalition and all the members of the North Valley for your interest this evening. I want to go over a few quick ground rules and then turn it over to the candidates. It's our hope that this is an informative meeting, and we'll have two parts. First, we'll have candidate statements, followed by, at the end of all their statements, public questions from you all. We'll do away with closing statements in favor of more public dialogue. At the beginning here, we'll have opening remarks. Each candidate is going to have 4 minutes. Darren over here will have a paddle and a hold up with 30 seconds to go. Paddle, good guy, yeah. And we'll give you each a 30-second warning, and then your time will have expired. I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves so you can name all the important positions you have and pronounce your name. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the first candidate, Jason, and then Susan.
Good evening, thank you. So I was Dykesville my whole life, but when I decided to run for mayor 3 years ago, I realized that so many people are afraid of trying the name Dykesville, I better add back my maiden name. Susan Wheeler Dykesville. I'm going to do the whole thing. Okay. Right here. Good evening. Great to see y'all. I want to talk to you about those items that are what I intend to do as mayor and what I hope to do with mayor. But first I want to give you a little introduction about myself and tell you that I am the candidate who has offered myself as completely nonpartisan and inclusive. And I will actually continue to be so as per the city charter of the city of Albuquerque. I don't want to be a Democratic mayor, I don't want to be a Republican mayor, a Libertarian mayor. I want to be the elected public servant for the city. I don't think anyone will disagree either that this is a big city. Oh, I like that. I heard some applause. This is a big city. We're the 32nd largest city in the United States. And therefore, we have a lot of big city problems. We have small city problems, and we have some that are unique to us. So it was really difficult to pick maybe 3 to talk about tonight because there are so many, but I narrowed it down to these 3. The one, economic development. How are we going to get there? We're going to start with better educational outcomes. We're also going to make an emphasis on supporting and incubating small businesses. And then we're going to ramp up our efforts to reach out to the rest of the state, to the rest of the country, and the globe, if necessary, to let people know what a great city Albuquerque is in which to do business and to live. Thank you. Crime and public safety, a biggie. First of all, we're going to we're going to hire a new police chief. We'll do a nationwide search. And we'll hire a chief who will be strongly behind finishing and exceeding the goals of the Department of Justice settlement agreement. That'll put more cops on the street. But thirdly, and instantly, we're going to respond to the crisis of those who are not housed in our city by getting them housed and doing additional facilitation to make sure that they get the mental health services they need and the addiction services they need. My third issue, infrastructure. We need better streets and better public transit. We need to modernize our utility services. We need to update them. We also need to prioritize bringing state-of-the-art internet, cellular service, and broadband to the city. Not only for the entire city to use, but also to incentivize the kind of tech businesses that we hope to start here and bring here, and also for education. The last thing, though, that I'm going to talk about tonight is some of the systems within our city that are very, very outdated. And those are systems in which we make processes very, very difficult, such as permitting, obtaining permitting, collecting fees, fines, and taxes. So I'm the only Susan on the ballot this time. Maybe there'll be another one in the future.
Susan!
I do hope that after examining all of the candidates at numbers of forums, that you'll all get to know and remember me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you everyone for coming tonight. This is an amazing neighborhood, and this community is a real treasure to our city. And it's important that elected officials and that those candidates are really listening to the people in our community. So thank you again for coming tonight. I'm Dan Lewis, and I am a mayor candidate running for mayor. And I got to introduce my wife. My wife is Tracy Lewis, and she's at the back here. And my daughter here as well, so she's a student at UNM. Very grateful for your neighbor association and your involvement in our community. The fact is, our city is defined as dangerous. We're defined by criminals right now. And we can change that. The fact is, we have to be brutally honest about it to change it. We have to get our city is defined by criminals, we're dangerous, we're stagnant, and we're failing. We can change it, and if we can change it, then we should rise to that challenge, and that's why I'm running for mayor. I want to make Albuquerque #1 for the worst place in the world to be a criminal. I want to make Albuquerque the most unwelcome place for those who want to steal our cars and break into our homes and wreak havoc in our city's neighborhoods. And we're going to do that by getting ahead of the reform process with a new chief, new leadership with APD, get ahead of the reform process rather than being defensive and a bunker mentality about it. We're going to hire 1,200 police officers in the city of Albuquerque. And when we hire those police officers, we're going to be proactive, and we're going to be able to be smart and intelligent policing. We know where crime happens in our city, and we're going to be intelligent to be able to be proactive in fighting crime. And we're also going to hold judges accountable. You know, we reduced the population at the MDC was reduced to about 1,100 people. And there's a revolving door in that MDC, and people are being arrested and come out that back door quicker than the officer that arrested them, gets off their shit. And we're going to hold judges accountable in the city for misinterpreting our laws and keep criminals in that jail. We're also going to work on, we're going to help job creators thrive in this city. And we're going to be a thriving city with jobs. We have some strengths in our city when it comes to some of the industries that are growing. Our creative economy is growing. We have an entrepreneurial ecosystem in downtown Albuquerque that I'm going to accelerate, and we're going to continue to grow. We're going to see some of the best companies, some of the greatest companies in our country come out of the city of Albuquerque in the next few years. We're going to focus on some of the industries like directed energy and cybersecurity and health and biosciences and big data. We're number 6 in big data. And we have companies that have turned big data into data visualization. Some of the best companies, I believe, are going to come out of the city of Albuquerque and create jobs. And we need a city government that's going to serve the people of Albuquerque first. It's refreshing to think of a city government that actually listens to the people and elected officials that tell the truth. There was a question our moderator asked on our page about transparency. And you know, it's important that elected officials and that leaders, city leaders, not just talk about transparency, but actually are transparent. And when it comes to state law that's called IPRA, the Inspection of Public Records Act, I will make IPRA the policy of the city of Albuquerque. It's the understanding that the records, the information that is generated by city government, by government jurisdictions, and by law enforcement is the property of the people. And I will make sure that the policy of the city of Albuquerque is that none of that information is withheld or delayed to the people that own that information. But we need to not just talk about transparency, but be transparent. It'll be a privilege to be able to serve as your mayor, to put the people of Albuquerque before partisan politics. I can tell you that serving on the council the last 8 years, that 100% of what we do should have absolutely nothing to do with partisan politics, and everything to do with ensuring that your tax dollars that they come back to you in a way that serves this city, and we're most responsible for the money that's given, our tax dollars in the city of Albuquerque. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Stella Padilla, and I'm running for mayor for the city of Albuquerque. Thank you for having me here tonight to speak about what we mentioned was the policing, crime, and public safety. I'm thinking that the crime in Albuquerque has gotten so out of control. The metrics in Albuquerque are the lowest they've ever been. They're unreasonable, they're unheard of. The child violence that they have here, the crime that we have, 70 cars a week that they're stealing is way too much, folks. And it looks like there's nothing really being done about the crime in Albuquerque. I understand, I've read the U.S. Department of Justice report. It's like 300 pages long. It says that we are failing our leadership from the top to the bottom. We have failed leadership from the police department, and they need to be replaced. They need to be held accountable for what's happening to the people in Albuquerque. The metrics, like I said, are the worst they've ever been. We're considered a welfare state. I'm tired of being known as a welfare state. I think that we need more, the economy has to prosper for the sake of our future, and we have to watch what we're doing and listen to the constituents, because right now the constituents don't seem to have a word in anything that they say. You go to meetings, county meetings, city council meetings, you voice your opinion, you tell them what is going on in your community, and there doesn't seem to be a resolution for actually the constituents. You are the taxpayers. You pay the city council, you pay the mayor, you pay all of our salaries as the city, our civil servants. And we should be accountable to you. If something's going on in your neighborhood that is not working for you, we should actually come up to you and talk to you. And I'm saying that every public servant should be accountable to every one of their constituents. And you should be able to come to the door, come to the table and say, I'm having a problem in my neighborhood. It's not working. Our city councilor's not listening to us. And you should be able to come and knock on the mayor's door if it's not working and say, help me, what do we do? And if these people are not doing their jobs, they should be replaced like every other employee, every government employee. I've been a government employee forever. And if you're not doing your job, you get a pin slip. And they walk you and say, you need to do your job, or find another one. I think that all county and government officials, city officials should be held to the very same say, if you're not doing your job, find another one. But we are here for the people. We're here to serve you and to make your life better, a profitable, safe place to live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm very proud of a 25 New Mexico generation New Mexican. I've been here all my life. I'm the kind of mayor that I love my city. I want to make this a safe place for us, a profitable place, and one that where the people can actually come to the mayor, come to the city council, come to the people that we are paying and say we have a problem, we have an issue. I also, I put on my eyes here. It's imperative that the very special characters of Albuquerque's people not be overshadowed and overrun by the failures of this administration. We can go on and on about our state of affairs. We can go on all night how we got here. But I think we all know the deal. If you're like me, our participation here tonight is to overcome, defeat, and triumph over our city struggle. Tonight we're discussing policing and public safety. I don't want to waste your time with our stats. We know we need a number. We know what the stats look like and how bad it is. When we can see all and experience it, crime is bad. So what is the solution? What is the solution? More cops? Right now, can't even give you an honest answer to how many cops we have on the force. We've asked several times, how many cops does it take? How many cops are there? We don't know. We've never gotten a correct number. Is more cops the real answer, or is better training, oversight the answer? I think it's the training and the oversight. And we do definitely need a new chief. I think we need to stop like the DOJ says from the top going down. But policing is definitely the best thing that I want to talk about now. The crime is the situation that we have to take a hold of immediately for our future, for our children, for future generations. The next thing I think is enterprise. We need to see what we're doing about our project. Is it up? Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Gus Pedrati, and we all know what I'm doing here. The first question you might have is he even old enough to vote? The answer is yes, I swear. 22 years old, I am from the University of New Mexico. I'm finishing 2 degrees this May, 1 in chemistry, 1 in psychology, and I study music and brain. So in a lot of ways, when we talk about differences bringing to this department, I'm interested in them by engaging in evidence-based political reform, first of all. What does that mean? For me, that means engaging community-based solutions. For me, coming from Albuquerque High School, great school, I know a lot of people here go to that neighborhood, engaging in extracurriculars like the Albuquerque Symphony, I see some alums in here. These programs are the ones that set us up for our future. These are the solutions that we see in our communities that help engage our youth and our populations and let them grow. What we need to see more of is we need to see the city acting on the larger infrastructure changing community-based solutions that will help empower our communities. First off, one of those things is Albuquerque Heading Home, a wonderful initiative that came out of the University of New Mexico from your communities and stands to save the city between $2 and $7 million by how it's implemented. Right now it's underfunded, and we talked about the problem we have with homelessness and transients in this community. But in fact, if we choose not to fund the infrastructure we've created, how can we look to anybody but ourselves to that problem? How can we talk about crime and the police without talking about mental health and homeless communities in our city? We need to start addressing these holistic issues. We can't silo these off anymore and pretend like they don't affect each other, like we don't affect each other, because that is in fact all we do in the city. That is why we live together. So, here's the suggestion that I'm here to make. Instead of saying that we're going to fire our police chief and hire more police as the solutions, we take those as a start. We say this is the platform we expand off of, and from here, we choose to engage these community-based solutions, like using Albuquerque Heading Home, like connecting our homeless and transient populations to the healthcare they deserve through initiatives like Project ECHO, which has shown that preventative and in-home care actually saves taxpayer dollars, that actually reduces strain on emergency infrastructure. We can be doing that. That same Project ECHO now works globally, and we have not taken up that identity as a city. That is us ignoring our treasures. And we all know that there are treasures in Albuquerque. Sometimes we don't even know if we can find them. It takes a while. It takes a moment to sit with them and breathe and realize we've discovered something that could actually change the city around here. That's what we're faced with this election. We're charged with making sure that we don't choose band-aids to systemic and oppressive and cyclic things we see in our communities, and instead we attack these things as holistic issues and we solve them from ourselves. We stop looking for an executive branch that has the answers and realize those we look up to most admit when they don't know. Admit when someone might know more than they do and ask for those solutions. That is how we transcend transparency and get to accessibility. Albuquerque is 6th in the nation for transparency. I don't feel like we're at number 6 in transparency. If you've been to the city website and you look for data, you will be lost. I am lost and I'm supposed to be a millennial who can do this. What we need is accessibility. What we need is to connect our community members with the neighborhoods and the projects that are relevant to them via zip code and make sure they can find everything going on in an instant. Find out not just the raw data, because who wants to spend 6 hours doing what a professional did with statistics and try and generate the same numbers? Raw data isn't enough. We need to see the statistics they use. We need the short version and we need the long version, the tools to do both at the same time. Furthermore, we need to make sure that we address ourselves as responsible in this. We are not complacent. We are active members of this. And I stand in front of you today hoping to get on the ballot so that you can allow me to be active in this process. None of this is about endorsement. We have 6 months to further these conversations, but we need us all to be here for it. So please, we're trying to get signatures. Thank you for being here tonight. You're choosing engagement, and for that I commend you. Love to talk with you after if I don't have to run out early, but it's a pleasure. Thank you.
I crossed the line. Let me tell you, if you're wondering why I signed Gus Pedrati's petition, you're not wondering anymore. Am I right? Was he busy? Thank you, guys. The camera will find me. I'm wide, but I'm not that wide. Let me tell you, my name is Brian Colon. It's an honor to be before you tonight and to share this stage with such a distinguished group of individuals. But what I'm most inspired by is the average age of these individuals. If you take an outlier or two like me off, we've got some amazing young people at the table. So what I'd ask you to do tonight is allow us to ask ourselves the question, are we sending the right message? Because all too often we say, let's get young people involved. Let's invite them to the table. Let's allow them to be part of the discussion. Tonight we had a chance to do that, and I'm honored to stand up here as we invite them to stay through the process. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian Colon. This is my neighborhood. I am in the North Valley. I live, for those of you that have been here your whole lives, you know the old gravel pit on Osuna between I-25 and Edith. They put some houses there in Vista del Norte, and that's where I've been for the last 15 years. I've had the opportunity to raise my beautiful son, who's 19 years old, in this community. Every year of his life has been spent here in Albuquerque. And I'm pleased to tell you, he's a very proud, along with Gus, an Albuquerque High Bulldog. Yeah. But what I'm more proud to tell you is that public school system at Albuquerque High allowed him to become a presidential scholar at George Washington University to study biomedical engineering. When people say, why are you running for mayor? It's pretty simple. Because I have the story that many of you have. I have the story that says our children do great in our community, they go off to go to college, and they're not convinced they want to come home. And believe me, every day on this campaign trail, whether it's Andy, Dina's son, or whether it's my son, Rafael, we want our children to come home. We want to know and be with our grandchildren. In order to do that, we've got to do a few things. We've got to create a safe city. And that's my number one priority, and I know it's yours. To create a safe city, we've got to have new leadership. Believe me, trust has been violated. Trust has been violated between the leadership of APD and the rank and file of APD. It's also been violated between the department and our community. The only way we can address that is to have a community conversation. And we have to do community policing not because DOJ says we have to do community policing, but instead because it's the right thing to do. We have to make sure that our troops know that we support them in the work they do each and every day. And I have to tell you that I've taken a lot of time to have confident and important conversations with the leadership of APD. In fact, as I stand before you tonight, I'm actually the only one of the candidates that's reached out to the chief before I told the press he was fired after I get elected. That's pretty disappointing. It's pretty disappointing to know that our community and our people that want to lead the community aren't willing to engage those people who are currently in leadership. And we're going to have a change in that leadership because that's the only way you can rebuild this trust. But having met with the chief, I know the resources that have to be built. I know the path to get there, and we will do that. We will make a deep commitment to build a safe city. That's what we're going to do. There are three issues that I think are critical to the future of the city of Albuquerque. It's creating that safe city, it's building economic development, and making sure that we engage in a conversation about education. When we talk about economic development, we've got amazing things going on in Albuquerque. I appreciate the highlights and the exclamation points that were put on some of the great things going on. Whether it's our city, our rainforest, or whether it's our creative culture. We have to continue to build on that economic development. And finally, we're no longer going to give the mayor hall pass when it comes to education. We've got to get in that sandbox, man, and say, I don't have statutory authority, but I have a moral obligation to serve those 90,000 students. We're going to engage them in a conversation with the chief education officer. I look forward to the opportunity to engage you in a 6-month conversation with you, to engage you in the community and engage you in the solutions for the city of Albuquerque. Thank you very much.
Wow, Gus. Amazing. I had all these things I wanted to say, and Gus pretty much said a majority of them. I'm running for mayor because as a voter, I feel disenfranchised. I feel like decisions are made without voter permission or voter information being contributed. You know, we're making large capital purchases for baseball parks and other things when we should be using that money to cure crime. It's not just about fighting crime. You got to realize the police department is not why we have crime. The crime exists without the police department. So where's that crime come from? Well, mental health, as Gus mentioned, is a huge issue. Also, where is our community? Our communities are falling apart. I'm a millennial. I spend, what I've heard statistics say, 16 hours a day on my mobile devices, on electronic devices. That's a lot of time. And I'm not spending time meeting other people, getting to know my community, being part of my community. Oh. And I'm not a politician. I'm actually a business owner, and my name is Ilan Colello. And I got a t-shirt. So I might not be the best public speaker, but what I do have is a strong moral compass. And as a startup CEO, I've spent about $500,000 here in Albuquerque trying to scale our business. We're in technology called virtual reality. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. But we've been here for about 7 years talking about it and developing it here before it was big. And we never got support, we never got help, we couldn't find the right people to do the jobs that we needed them to do. So now, I started a class at UNM, this virtual reality cinema, and we're actually educating film students on how to take these high-tech jobs from the film industry. Because right now, there's actually more film jobs in New Mexico than there are New Mexicans to fill it. So, I think it's a big thing to try and do economic development, to create an ecosystem for success in Albuquerque. And I've been doing this on my own, without running for office, for a long time, spending a lot of my own personal money doing this. I'm here because I feel like we need to give voice to the voiceless. I think housing first is crucial. Like cities in Canada are saving 5 times as much money as they used to spend on taking care of the homeless by leaving them on the streets, by just putting them in the house first. Then all of a sudden you can start to deal with things like drug abuse, depression, gang violence, actually feeds off of our homeless situation. You know, when people are asking you for money, what do you think they do with the money? They give it to a gang by buying drugs that are sold out of a safe house. New Mexico is one of the largest drug hubs in the entire country. They don't go to Texas, they don't go to Arizona, because they will put them in jail for a lot longer than we put them in jail here. And then I tell people, oh, well, we should add extended sentencing for crimes related to gangs. And people say, well, our jails are full. Well, why are they full? Maybe because we're putting people in there for crimes that are non-violent. I think we all know about how successful Colorado was by legalizing marijuana for recreational use, bringing it out into the public so we can actually deal with it. If we continue to fear to discuss these issues, we will continue to push them into the dark, into places where the black market can profit, where gangs can profit. We have over 200 gangs here in New Mexico. I grew up in the Bay Area in California before my parents moved us here to New Mexico when I was in high school. And I was actually beat up quite often by gangs. It's a real issue that your children, your sons, have to deal with. They're in every school. And if you come from a family where you don't have anything to do and you don't have very much money, you're a potential recruit. And who here is doing anything to stop that? So I'm running for mayor to do the things that other people are afraid of doing, and to say the things that other people are afraid of saying. Because I'm not in this for a career win. I'm not in this to run for governor. I'm in this for justice, morality, and for us as a community. I look at all these candidates here, and maybe we all see each other as competitors. I actually see us as a family. I see everyone in this audience as part of our families. Love thy neighbor, right? So I'm going to do that as your mayor. Thank you very much. You want to go?
you all for having me here. I'm Dina Archuleta. Yes, it looks like Deanna, but it's actually pronounced Dina. Very creative parents. So I'd love to start with telling you, I love this community. I love this city. I'm passionate about our community. And I understand that this city and this community deserves the best. I see this as a two-pronged issue. It's many prongs, but two major issues. One is our economy. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about my experience. As a two-term county commissioner, I was able to help through zoning and planning that working with communities to make sure that small businesses have been able to grow and thrive. And I can bring that to the mayor's office. I was able to bring in 2 large employers that actually have great paying jobs into our community. That's Tempur-Pedic and Fidelity, both of which still exist today. The other piece of that economy that we need to make sure we build is the technology piece of this. But our startups, as soon as they start to do well, they leave our community. Why? Because they don't have that bridge funding. Because of my experience on the federal level, I know how to bring that funding to New Mexico. And I know how to help those businesses grow. The other piece of this is really our crime issue. We have folks who are committing, a small group of folks that we know that are committing the most heinous crimes. We need to work collaboratively, the mayor, the next police chief needs to work collaboratively to make sure that we get those folks put in jail and kept there. That means working with the DA and the judiciary to make that happen. The other piece of that is we have individuals in our community, and many of us know them, folks that have drug and alcohol problems, and they're committing crimes. We need to get those folks the services they need. When I was a county commissioner, I was the key architect of MATS, the Metropolitan Assessment Treatment Services Program, which actually is a great alternative to incarceration. And that's what we need to look at, help those members in our community become better achieving community members. Because I love this community and because I'm committed, I'm the best candidate to make sure we have the whole encompassed piece of this. I want to talk to you a little bit about transparency. I believe the best way to grow our community is actually to work together and make sure that our community members are engaged at the front end of an issue, not the back end. A good example of how we do that poorly in this community is the Edith Waste transfer site. Right? Everybody in this, right? We all know this. I have very near and dear. The fact that that issue went for 8 years before this community was asked to engage in it or even acknowledge that it existed is a shame, and it should never happen. So let me tell you how to do this the right way. As Bernalillo County Commissioner, we bought the Highland Theater. Highland Theater, when we purchased it, was falling apart, it had all sorts of issues. Before we did anything, we worked with our community citizens. We walked door to door to the businesses around. We talked to all of the schools in the area, the neighborhood associations, and the community members to find out what they felt was the best and highest use of that community center. And you know what it is? Right now, today, 600 children in this community dance in that facility a week. Thank you. I'm very proud of that. With APD reform, I will absolutely appoint a new police chief. Absolutely. Our community deserves a better, it really, holy smokes, that was fast. Okay, if I can, really quickly, I just wanted to let you know what I bring to this that others don't is experience. I was a single mom that raised my 2 sons in this community. I was a PTA president, a neighborhood association president. I was an Obama appointee. I was a 2-term county commissioner, and my time at Interior, I oversaw 17,000 federal employees and a $2 billion budget. I also was in charge of overseeing clean drinking water in the West. I am the candidate with the experience to get the job done, and I can start on the ground day one, moving this forward. Thank you.
and I worked in, I'm currently working in theater. In security, I got to meet a whole lot of interesting people, I would say. Some pretty iffy people. It's really easy to get into security. There's a whole bunch of gang members, and you really get to hear what they want. How many of you guys will like talk to the worst of the worst and see what they want, what they think, how they think? And a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, we'll protect you and hang gang goes down. You know, they understand. So if we could actually talk to the worst of the worst and understand where they're coming from, we could cure all this crime and stuff. This doesn't have to happen. Because our crime, 774 violent crimes for 100,000. That's more than twice the national average. That's ridiculous. In the education, 61.7% of the class of 2015 high class graduated. Math, not my strong point. My teacher passed me just so we can look good on her. I'll tell you that. So a lot of people are graduating, shouldn't even be graduating, honestly. And as a state, we're 50th in education. How long are we going to be at the bottom of that? This youth is the future. If we're going to continue to be at the bottom, we're going to continue to be at the bottom forever. The youth is at the bottom. 77% of fourth graders are not proficient in reading. I was very proficient in the first grade, and my teacher would let me read in front of the class. I'm afraid I would embarrass the other students. It's crazy. I mean, they need to know how to read. That's a basic thing. I mean, they should know how to read if they're always on their phones and social media. You know, there's words there they should know how to read, but they don't. And then there's been a consistent rise in teens who abuse drugs and alcohol. Teen birth rates and NEETs, which is not an education or trade or employment. And then for police, there's approximately 840 officers in APD. Officers say that it should be around 1,300. We're way understaffed. And a lot of police brutality, I can see that comes from stress. You know, they're struggling around to deal with all this ridiculous crime, and it's bringing up stress on them. And some of them being lash out, and and they can't hold each other accountable much because there's not very many police officers. So we need a good leader who can help these people, and we need more police officers out there. There's plenty of people who want to do it. There's plenty of young people who would do it, but they need to be guided. And poverty. New Mexico teeters on the edge of 49th and 50th in poverty. What counts for the statistics though? We're always on the bottom of this, and this is poverty. So I was looking at I love history and other cultures. So I was looking at several other cultures, and their public housing is a lot better. It's like here, if you just didn't think about it, we just put a public housing just without really thinking about it, just like, hey, here's some houses, go there, have fun. It's going to be dangerous. It's going to be horrible. If you walk through there, you're going to get beat up. So that's why we have to actually think about it. We have to enforce rules. In Singapore, they have public housing, which are some of the best in the world. I want something like that. There's an interview with this one lady, sitting on this bench in front of a public housing unit. They asked her if there was crime. She said, oh yeah. The other day, a man stood up on the balcony and fell. That was the most pride she'd seen. That's what I want.
I'm not going to cross the line, Brian. Good evening, everybody. Welcome out. I'm glad you're here tonight. My name is Wayne Johnson. I'm a Bernalillo County Commissioner. Have been for the last 6+ years. And, I'm very glad to see that there's a lot of broad agreement in what people are saying here tonight. And I think there's a lot of agreement in what our objectives are in the city and what we believe should happen within this city. I've heard some themes this evening. First of all, we all want to live in a secure environment here in Bernalillo County in the city of Albuquerque. We want to make sure we have job opportunities for ourselves and for our kids. We want our kids to have a great education.
and be able to move forward out of New Mexico if they want to, but we want to have the opportunity so they don't have to back here in New Mexico. And I've seen that across the board. And I think everybody up here at this table, in one way or the other, is going to agree with those statements. And I think this is going to be less about what the issues are here, and more about who you believe is really ready to step in and work on those issues, who's been working with the problems of crime, who's been working with the problems of behavioral health in our community, who's ready to step in and work together both with the city of Albuquerque and with Bernalillo County and our surrounding neighborhood, or our surrounding counties and cities, to really achieve something in behavioral health. There's a lot going on that you may not be aware of. Dr. Weiss here is in the front, and he's more engaged than most in our behavioral health issues at Bernalillo County and the city of Albuquerque. A few years ago, or 2 years ago, I was on ABCGC, and I'm not going to tell you what that means because it just takes too long to say. But it's basically a joint committee between the city and the county. And both the city and the county put their behavioral health efforts into the ABCGC to create a behavioral health authority. This is something that's critical for our crime, it's critical for our health, and it's critical for our future as a community. APD, I think we all agree that APD is understaffed and in many ways under siege. And where we may disagree is I'm one of the few people that will stand up here tonight and tell you that I think DOJ was a mistake. I will tell you, and I know this from experience, and my fellow commissioner will probably tell you some of this. When you were trying to run a law enforcement department with a 106-page consent decree that covers everything from recruitment to use of force, a court monitor and a federal judge and a Department of Justice, you can't adapt your policies quick enough to engage the community or respond to the problems that you find there. That is our job as elected officials. That's the council's job, to make sure that we have a good police force. That's the mayor's job, to make sure that this police force is responsive in the community. If you don't have that type of authority in your own elected officials, why would you trust unelected officials from Washington? And I do not believe that DOJ has been good. There's some good things that have come out of it, but not some good things that will go forward. So again, I think I've got 30 seconds. I'm not used to this. I told them they should give us 2 minutes and a bell like they do down in City Council. But I thank you for being out here tonight. Economic development is something I've been heavily engaged with. We need to have those jobs here. The county since 2012 has pumped $600 million of private investment into the city of Albuquerque. I can knock down the Flagship Foods, U.S. Foods, the Imperial building downtown. We've been engaged in creating over 3,000 jobs. Just imagine what we can do together with the private sector, with you, and with the city of Albuquerque and all of our partners on economic development as we move forward into the future. Thank you very much.
Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. All of us out here. My name is Jacob Schull, and I'm running for mayor simply because I love Albuquerque. Albuquerque is not my hometown. I'm originally from Orlando, Florida. I've been here for, I'm going to say close to about 5 years now, going on 6 actually. You know, my platform is very simple. Education, infrastructure, public safety, transparency. We need to get a better 311 system in action. We need to hear your voices, all of our citizens' voices, before we take action on anything. Because who makes up this city? It's not city council members, it's not the mayor, it's not anyone else. It's the citizens that make up this city. So we need to hear from you, and we need your opinions and your thoughts on things. Our economy. I am also for medical marijuana and recreational marijuana use as well. Colorado last year brought in $200 million in tax revenue, and that's no thanks to a $1.8 billion sales. And that's at a 10% tax rate. I am proposing possibly 30, 40%, because if someone is going to purchase marijuana, they're going to buy it. We have people driving out of state supporting other economies, and that's just not okay with me. Albuquerque is built on local small businesses, and we need to support them. The Albuquerque Rapid Transit is going to be a failure for our businesses. With all the construction, consider that Albuquerque Rapid Transit is going to turn central. Our historic Route 66 into a one-lane road, destroying businesses and our commute to work and downtown areas for tourism or whatever have you. We need to make that a two-lane road however we can. Unfortunately, we weren't able to vote on construction for the Albuquerque Rapid Transit. Until October, we have no say. We can't stop construction, and if we did, what's the point? It's still there. Our public schools, I believe in investing in our future today for a better tomorrow, because our children really are our future. Our teachers have taken many pay cuts over the years, and it's time that we support them in our public school systems. I agree with every single one of you. We need to get rid of our police chief, and we need to hire someone that is far better, and that is more educated in our public safety issues. And we need your help, citizens of Albuquerque, to appoint that new police chief. I actually don't have very much more to say, so I'm just going to... I'm the last one, so... Oh, we have one more. Thank you guys for your time.
Well, good afternoon, or good evening. I'm Tim Keller. Thank you so much. Some of you might know me as the former senator from Albuquerque's International District, and also as your current state auditor, fighting fraud, waste, and abuse in our community. And let me just say, I'm going to try to move it back a little bit. That should be better. So, those of you who know me in my young career know that I'm a little bit of a maverick. I have stood up against the status quo in every chance that I've had, and I believe in pushing real reform and real ideas, not just rhetoric. And for me, what I've learned in both of those roles is I've had, a wonderful education in how government really works, and how actually all the talk and all the rhetoric, when it comes down to spending our taxpayer money, how it actually doesn't work. And for me, born and raised here in Albuquerque and raising a young family here, these issues are about now. They are about today. And so I'm running because I believe now is the time for new vision. Now is the time for new leadership. Because together, if we step up to our challenges today, we can be a safe, an innovative, and an inclusive community that actually works for all of us. Now, to start with, we've got to understand, and we've all talked about this, where we are today. We have immense challenges, there's no doubt, and that's been stated here. But I think one of the problems is we've been nibbling around the edges of those challenges. And I'm telling you, it's time we own that responsibility. It is the mayor's job to fix the police department. Yes. It is the mayor's job to do everything we can for our small businesses. It's the mayor's job to step up and actually fill in the gaps in APS after school and over the summer. It's the mayor's job to actually make our city energy neutral. And it's the mayor's job to listen. And what I mean by that is, a mayor, I think, has to listen to the community, and the community should come first. I believe in community governance, and that means a couple of things. It means right away, if a community doesn't want a waste transfer station, then they're not going to have it. That's what the community means. It also means if we have 5,000 homeless people on the streets, and we're helping about 100 every year through Heading Home, which is a great program, the mayor actually has to prioritize the budget to help the rest of those homeless folks. So that means instead of spending $18 million on a softball field on 98th Street, we could use that money to put every single homeless person in a home first. That's what the mayor should be doing. Now similarly, we talk about mental health and we talk about diversion programs. For the price that we are spending on ART, we could have worked with the county to have that diversion center already built. That's what matters for us. We've got to put our money where our mouth is and actually take responsibility for these challenges going forward. Now, let me say another piece about this. I think I've had a couple of elections, and that's true. And I know in all of those races, I've had to do the traditional financing model. I've had to sit there and raise money. And even if it was the international district state senator or state auditor, let me tell you, it's not easy to fundraise for state auditor, because like no one even knows what that position does. But I've never had a choice to get big money out of politics. This race, thank goodness in New Mexico, thank goodness in Albuquerque, our mayor's race, we have a choice. We can choose the public financing model, and we can do everything we can to get that, and to make sure that how we get to City Hall matters, and that that path is one that does not include big money in politics. It is one that is built on $5,000 $5 donations from everyday Arcadios. And that is what I believe in. That's why I'm running public financing. If you want to move the needle on these issues, it starts with a campaign. And it starts with a candidate who's willing to get there with you in the community instead of by fundraising. Thank you. And I look forward to talking with you more.
Thank you, candidates. Thank you, candidates, one and all. At this point, we'd like to open the floor to questions from the community.
So I'm here to ask a question of all candidates on behalf of the Greater Gardner Neighborhood Association, which is the sponsor of this evening's forum, and we really appreciate that you came. And our question concerns both process and substance. In 2014, our neighborhood was informed that the city wants to build a facility at Edith and Griegos that would have three functions: as a waste transfer station, as a hazardous waste facility, and a convenience center. This had been in the planning process since 2006, but was never made public until 2014, so it was kept a secret by the city for 8 years while the city was working on it. And there has never, ever been any public input into, first of all, whether Albuquerque needs a waste transfer station. Secondly, if a waste transfer station is needed, whether there should be only one where waste is collected, for example, from the west side, brought to the center of the city, and then transported back to the landfill on the west side, or whether there should be multiple such stations, maybe 5 or 8 or whatever, small ones scattered around the city. And third, whether such a facility should be located in the middle of town, like Edith and Griegos, in the midst of residences and businesses. So here are questions to you based on that background. One, you can say yes or no. Are you in favor or opposed to a waste transfer station at Edith and Griegos? Secondly, do you think there should be public input from the beginning on such basic issues as whether this type of facility is needed at all, and if so, whether there should be one or multiple smaller ones? And if you are elected mayor, will you stop it and go back and start over on the consideration of this project? So that's the question from our neighborhood that is invited you here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Toba. I neglected to say that I'm going to give you 90 seconds per speaker to speak to the question. If you want to take less, that's perfectly fine. Kim, you were saying?
Oh, I was going to try and use your, if I wrote it down right, no, yes, yes. So.
As mayor, I'll start the process over, and we'll start again, and we'll listen to this neighborhood, to this community, but we will start that process over on where that transfer, if it happens, would be located. We worked on projects like Paseo I-25, and just as an example, Paseo I-25 was recognized as a dire need of the community to fix, and it came to the council. We worked hard to fix that dire need. when it comes to projects like the ART, we're not recognizing any dire need. There's no problem that we're fixing. The best projects come out of the community, and they fix projects, they fix problems that make our community better. And I would say that the way that this community was approached with this project was absolutely not the way good projects should be approached by a mayor of Albuquerque, and we'll do it differently.
So a couple of things. I'm completely opposed to the waste transfer station. Those of you that are from this neighborhood know that I've been to the legal briefings. I've made contributions to the legal defense fund for our community. Imagine our community has had to establish a legal defense fund to work with our city government. That's absolutely offensive and inappropriate. Furthermore, I appreciate the councilor's commitment to saying that this will never happen again. What I'd like to get a commitment from the councilor is that he will call the staff of the city of Albuquerque and actually ask them to respond to our community on where this project's at in the process. That's completely cannot stay in the city. And also commit, I'm going to close on this, which is, if we're going to have a project of this nature, or a project of the art scale, we will absolutely commit to this community that we will have environmental studies done at appropriate levels at appropriate times before we start construction, each and every time if I'm mayor of the city of Albuquerque. Thank you, Tova, for the question.
So let me just say that as soon as I become mayor, we will put a stop to the transfer station and eat it. $50,000 is way too much money for you guys to spend for them to hear the word no. It's pretty simple. Now, in regards to what to do next, I'm not even sure that the waste transfer station is needed. They're going to save what? They said $7 million? $70 million, right? 74? 75, thank you. So $75 million can only be saved if we close all the other transfer stations. There's details that are being left out. Why do they want to force this down our throat? Has to do with capital projects and who's making money. If something doesn't make sense, someone's making money somewhere, right? Everyone knows this. Right? And then let's take a bigger look at waste management in general. We have problems with our environment, with our ecosystem. There are a lot of people here with medical issues. Stuff is just being dumped on your property, and the city's charging you to have to clean it up. Let's really take a look at waste management in general, not just this transfer station. There's problems all over the place.
Thank you, and I'm not going to beat this to death, but process is very important. And as an elected official or as a city government or county government, you absolutely must follow the processes that are in place, and that means community engagement. And I think that absolutely was a failure in this particular case with the transfer station, and it certainly was a failure with ART, which fails just about every other test, from concept to design to community engagement, and now we find out it may be a failure of financing. So we, as government officials and as your elected representatives, we have an absolute obligation to you to involve you in the process and to make changes to projects according to what you tell us from your communities, because it impacts every community that it touches.
Hi, thank you, Wayne. I don't live in this community. I've been following this case for at least 2 years, reading lots of articles in the paper, and I have attended a few meetings. And it seemed to me and others who I've discussed it with recently, actually preparing for this forum tonight, that if I lived down the street, I wouldn't want that waste transfer station. And that this proposed project absolutely lacked in process. As your mayor, I would absolutely want to cancel this project and go back to the beginning as suggested before.
I think that was my Good evening, my name is David Beerschel. I'm Dr. David Beerschel. I'm the Native American Ambassador, and I am honored to be here this evening. I am a resident from the state of Oklahoma, God's country, and I've just recently moved into the Albuquerque, New Mexico area to serve as a Native liaison between some of the governments and some of the things that are here. My question here this afternoon or this evening is going to be for Dan Lewis and for Brian Colon, Gus, Deanna, and I am asking today is that some of the things that all of you have said are very, very gracious things and things that we want to hear. But one of the things that New Mexico has continued to do is to disregard the First Nations people. And I have heard all of your speeches, and I've heard many of you in campaigns, but there's only one of you that has reached out to the First Nations, which was Dan Lewis, and I appreciate that. I'm pretty sure after this, many of you will be knocking on the door because I believe that there are a little over 6,000 Native Americans that are registered to vote in the city of Albuquerque. We fail to realize that Native America brings in one of the largest Native American events in the world, which is Gathering of the Nations. We talk about transparency and APT reform and these things because that is one time that I believe crime rate goes up. Some things happen during that time, but the most important thing that Native America brings to the development here in the city of Albuquerque is the millions of dollars they bring in tourism. And some of you may not be for the art project, but those of you, it's probably not even going to be a problem when we look at that because the development of what Native country is there. And some of the things in the presidential things is to look at tribal consultation. Right now, Albuquerque is getting ready to reach its boundaries of limitations with regards to the tribes that are here. And my question here today is, what is your plan to stand with Native country? Because we know we're all in a Republican mess. We can't deny that. But what is going to be your purpose and destiny to bring the tribes into the governments here within the city?
I just lost you. Thank you so much for your question, first of all. Gathering Nations certainly experienced a huge loss with UNM trying to move them. But what we need to do as a city is we need to stand with our First Nation communities, first of all, by acknowledging treaties that our federal government chooses to ignore around us, also choosing that our non-assimilatory intersectionality in our community is what makes us great. And that comes from inclusivity from all of our groups. And instead of exploiting First Nations communities for tourism and art, letting them take hold of this community as well, because it is theirs. This land is yours first, and we acknowledge that. And we know that. And so what we have to do is make sure that it's not just a seat at the table. This is something we hear all the time. We make sure that input is given. When Red Nation speaks, we listen. When Kiva Club talks out from the UNM campus, we recognize that they are viable members of our community too. These aren't extremist groups. We need to stop treating them as protesting groups and realize that these are the tools we have left them with to give us their message. We have to choose to stand with these people via divesting from Wells Fargo, making the motions to be sure that they know we are doing everything we can economically and otherwise to show our support. And if we don't take the first step, if we don't listen, then how can we ever act? And we're choosing to pretend like we're listening. And we're going to choose to act. We're going to acknowledge the communities around us. We're going to stop spreading to the southwest. And we're going to stop invading these territories that we already did atrocious things to years ago and we're still perpetuating. This also comes down to decriminalizing homelessness and making sure that we stop oppressing these people through cyclic and systemic laws. We can do all these things only from the executive position. And I look forward to, and I hope to continue this dialogue, and we can put together real concrete steps to move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. First and foremost, let me explain to you that I actually have reached out to the Native American community. I've been to many AIO functions, I believe Brian has as well, making sure that we are engaged in the community. I also want you to know that I am Native American, and I also was part of the architect group that actually created the Obama Nation to Nation consultation document for the Department of Interior. I also worked with the Park Service to make sure that they were telling the story of all Americans and not just one sliver of America. So I have the history of this, I understand it, it's embraced in who I am as an individual and who my community is. So I worked as a county commissioner to make sure I'm working closely, and as a chair of the water utility, to make sure that we were doing right by our sister countries, our sister nations, both Isleta, Sandia, and Laguna, to make sure that as we grow, we were doing things collaboratively. And I've already reached out and indicated that that is my wish and my experience and how I'll continue as a leader in this community.
Thank you, Dina. Thank you, Ambassador, for the great question. It is true. I want to begin by saying I understand the value of your community and its impact on our community collectively. One of the co-chairs of my campaign is LaDonna Harris, the founder of the Americans for Indian Opportunity. She's the co-chair of my campaign so that she knows that she always has a voice in my world. And my world is that I'm the next mayor of the city of Albuquerque. She'll be right there with me. I just spent last week 3 hours out at SIPI learning at a convened table of many different organizations that represent the Native American community so that I could be better informed. We had folks from Oklahoma, South Dakota, New Mexico, and off-reservation Native Americans who are in our community but are being failed to be represented at the Native American tables. So we have to understand there's a distinction between Native Americans and off-reservation people. And for me, as mayor of the city of Albuquerque, it will be an honor to give those individuals a voice in our city of Albuquerque. The people of color, thank you. The people of color in our community, unfortunately, have an overrepresentation of poverty. That is not acceptable, whether it's Hispanic, African Americans, or Native Americans. If you have a seat at the table, then we'll have a voice. That voice will allow us to understand the systemic issues that are existing in our community that are continuing to hold those communities in poverty. We will address those issues. You will have a voice, and I'm honored to have LaDonna be my co-chair.
Move on to the next question. Oh, Dan, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ambassador Dave. Thank you so much for the question. The first responsibility of a mayor is to be available to every single person in the city and listen to the voices of the people in the city and to engage and to be available. And I want to make sure that that mayor's office is more than anything available to every single person, their concerns and needs, and also to ensure that there's opportunity, that we create opportunity for every single person in this city. And I'm looking forward to also ensuring that not just there's that availability, but making sure that every single person has an opportunity to serve on our boards, our commissions, to have a say in the policies that are decided in this city as well. And that includes working with the people that reflect our community. And that is people of all different backgrounds and all nations, and certainly the First Nation and the people that you represent, David. And I'm looking forward to making sure that in the mayor's office that you have a voice, not just a voice, but you're a critical part of the decisions that are made in the city.
My name is Mike Keneally. I live in the downtown or Old Town area. I'm really encouraged to see the talent and intelligence of this group. I hope whoever wins the race can make use of all of it. I want to bring out just a few issues and offer them for commentary that hasn't been mentioned. And they're controversial, but I think they're important. First one is immigrant sanctuary in Albuquerque. Second one, what's an appropriate minimum wage in Albuquerque? Third one, how about consolidation of elections? How about internet access as a public utility? And lastly, my own personal concern is it has to do with healthcare. I came here 9 years ago with my wife, largely because we needed better health care than we could get in Las Cruces, which was horrible. And we did find it was excellent here at that time. it's gone downhill rapidly. I want to know what can be done at the city level to improve access to health care. You can't get a doctor these days. You know, go try to get an appointment months down the road. So I'd like to know if there's any ideas on that regard. Thank you.
Candidates who haven't spoken yet, wave a hand if you'd like to take a swat at this. Someone's got to wiggle.
Sure. You asked a lot of questions, so it's hard to deal with them all. So I'm going to just give you straight answers to all of them. Look, representing the International District for 2 terms, I support immigrants, and I support refugees, and I don't think that we should have ICE living on the front of the streets. I also have a voting record on all of this, and I think that I share that because you don't have to really just believe what I'm saying here to tell you what you want to hear. You can look at my record. I support increasing the minimum wage. I support indexing it so that politicians are not in charge of it going forward. And I think that is a really important point. And in terms of internet as utility, I think it's a great idea. And actually a lot of cities have that. I think it's absolutely something we should look at. And with respect to healthcare, look, I think a mayor's got to be ready with answers for what's happening in DC. And that includes answers in terms of pushing back against the hate and the division that's coming down, but also answers for healthcare. And I think there is a way out. If they're going to cut Medicaid, our city's got to step up. And there actually is a way. It's called a hospital improvement district. It's something I worked on in the Senate. And if need be, we can create our own. And we can have a system that works for our community, regardless of what DC does. And that's what I'll be ready to do as your next mayor.
Okay, so our city, our state, really actually our country is run by immigrants. The Day Without Immigrants last month, seeing how many businesses and students were out of school was astonishing. And however, I don't think that we need to label our city as a sanctuary city just because that's not going to be okay for us. But we do need to work with local law enforcement and the new police chief to keep our immigrants in the city and in our state, really. I don't have a whole lot of information on local health care, and that is something that I will need to research a little more. Our minimum wage also needs to go in front of a public forum. This is more transparency issues. You as voters need to have a say in that.
Thank you, and I'm going to get ready to duck because I'm about to tell you something you probably aren't going to want to hear. Last Tuesday, I voted against the sanctuary city ordinance or sanctuary county ordinance in Bernalillo County, and I'm going to tell you why. It's very simple. We all believe that we should be treated with dignity and respect, and that dignity and respect are a two-way street. When you come here from another country, just like when I go to another country, you need to respect their customs and their laws.
That's right.
You don't get to set them coming into this country. Internet is a utility. I think that's a great way to end up with really bad internet service. Right now, we don't have enough options. That's absolutely true. We need more competition, not less. And the minimum wage, I'm on record against the minimum wage, and I'm especially against an automatic index, which takes that responsibility that we elected officials have and that you judge us by and sets it aside. You won't know where we stand on an issue. Tonight I'm sitting here looking you in the eyes and telling you how I believe and what I believe and why I believe what I believe. I think that's important in a mayor, even and maybe especially if you disagree with me.
Speak up to the mic.
But immigration in itself is a great thing. You know, America's full of immigration. But we need safe immigration. My background is German, and I love where Germany, where my ancestors from. And it's a mess, because the immigration, the way they've done it, is a mess, and the migrants don't respect the people there, and the culture there. They don't care. And that's what I want here. I want to be careful with this. Yeah, bringing more people here is great, but we need to be careful with it. So I don't support being a sanctuary city, just because I don't want us to be in such danger. I want to be careful until these be thought out, and well thought out, so we don't rush into anything. And minimum wage, I make $5 an hour plus tips right now, but I still don't agree on the minimum wage. Taxes get raised up, and I don't feel like it would work out that well. Okay, as for internet, I love the internet. Of course, I was living when I came, but I think you do need more access to internet, especially so people can find jobs who don't have access to internet. But we need to be careful of that as well, because more people on the surface, so our debt goes down. And if you have a bunch of information on healthcare, you need to research that as well.
I'm going to try to get this out within 90 seconds. So, first answer is, I was the commissioner that, can you hear that better? Great. I was the commissioner that made sure that ICE was taken out of the jail. Sure that everybody understands that I agree. Minimum wage is something that we need to increase. Our costs are going up and we are not keeping in front of it. And we have individuals who are working 40 hours, they're making minimum wage, and they are below the poverty rate. That must stop. The other piece is my husband and I were in Ecuador in the high mountains, and we're able to get better internet service in the mountains of Ecuador than we are in our house in the North Valley. That is not okay, not acceptable. And I'll also tell you one more thing. I was the commissioner that made sure that this community knew where the $90 million, the University of New Mexico Hospital, what they were doing it. So that's what I'll do.
I'll just stand here. Thank you, everyone. My name is Deborah Holland. I am an urban Indian in the Federal District. And I just wanted to, it's not a question, but I just want to raise this issue because I think all of you should be including this in your campaigns. First of all, I'm disappointed to see that none of you have refillable water bottles in front of you right now. Those get thrown, half the time those don't get thrown in the recycling bin but in the trash. And I really feel like Albuquerque has a severe trash and recycling problem. Our city is the worst it's ever been, and I've been here for a long time. I think our mayor does not care enough about, oh sorry about that, it's hard to know. I don't think our mayor cares enough about trash in our city. We should all be recycling. We need education on this. And I hope that all of you going forward will take this issue very seriously because it's a serious one. I live in the downtown area next to Teakway Park. I tried to get recycling bins in the park. They were there for a while and they took them out because they said it wasn't cost effective. So in the summertime when the kids start having all their picnics after school, there's trash flowing all the way down Mountain Road because the trash cans get full, they don't get emptied, and trash flows everywhere, and it will end up in the ocean where, you know, the animals die every single second. So I hope that you all will take that seriously. I don't need an answer on it right now, but I just wanted to raise the issue. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Dr. Luis Roberto Sosa, and I'm surprised that the Latinos and Latinas here didn't speak about the immigration issue and also the refugee issue. And they should have had that as an important discussion item, since the whole nation and also the nations of the world are talking about this important factor. And Brian should have been right on it from the very beginning, okay? And the rest, the Latina here, and the Indita Latina over there too, okay? But anyway, the point is that I'm of Mexican descent. I was born in New Mexico, I grew up here in New Mexico, and the immigration issue is a very, very important issue. Our primos and primas are here, and the young lady out here, you're still young enough, I'm old to learn, okay? Immigration is a very important issue. Your parents are immigrants, so, study up on it. Thank you.
Any more questions? I'm going to move on to the next question.
My name is Terry Storch. I think we all know that this is going to be a very, very engaged and energized electorate coming out for this election. I think we all agree that this is an incredibly important election. In principle, I love the fact that it's nonpartisan. In reality, I have nightmares at night about the vote being split. I would describe myself as a Democrat, a progressive Democrat. And so my nightmares actually involve what will happen when the Democrat or the non-Republican side of the vote gets split. If it gets split by the Republicans, that's A-okay with me. So my question is under the King Solomon question, which is, for those who are non-Republican candidates, does this also worry you that the vote is going to be split? Secondly, do you want a progressive person to be mayor of Albuquerque? And third, and most important, will you back out if you don't have the numbers?
Susan hasn't spoken yet.
It's my turn, and Terry's an old friend of mine, and she's brought something up that's very near and dear to my heart. It's pretty clear to me, well, first of all, the system of even being involved in a municipal election in Albuquerque is complicated beyond any time limit that I could take to explain it to you. I recently sat down with a reporter who may do an investigative report on it for an hour and a half, and he kept saying, but then the $4,000, and then the $3,005, and then and how does that work? And it's not very, shall we say, transparent. So to address Terry's question, though, it's excellent. My nightmare concerns, there you are, almost the same thing. I think what's very likely going to happen is that especially someone like me who's taken the stance that is in the charter of the city of Albuquerque, meaning that just like every other contestant, every other candidate, I went in and filled out the paperwork in the city clerk's office saying that I intended to run for mayor. When I walked out, I remained nonpartisan. And that's not because I don't have any partisan roots. I've been a Democrat my entire adult life. But when I realized that I really very much wanted this job 3 years ago, I re-registered as declined state, which is the only option they offer in this state. Kind of a flaky option, but that's what you get. I would prefer to call myself unaffiliated. I'm getting taken off. My fear is that it's going to end up being two highly partisan candidates who really aren't going to embrace the entire electorate and the residents of the city of Albuquerque, who will end up winning because they have the support of major parties.
So first, it's important to acknowledge none of us are on the ballot yet. and this is a long race to go. There's also a runoff at the end where if you don't get 50% of the vote, it goes on to November. So statistically, it's important to realize that how we turn out in October is the most important part of this puzzle. It is also important to realize that with 6 months left to go, we have to talk about the issues, we have to look at each candidate critically, and we can't too early say that this is who we're going for, because there's too much of a discussion to be had and there's too much at stake here. So our municipality is the only one that can draw the line in the sand against our federal government. End of story. So yes, we are all listening to each other, I hope. And if we aren't all ready to concede a race, then we're running for the wrong reasons, and we're running for ego, we're running for personal aspirations, and that is the exact wrong reason to run for office. Now, I'm going to use the rest of my time to take that answer. To go back to something that was said earlier. First off, for healthcare in the city, I disagree with the hospital district idea. I think that what we need to do is we need to lean on mid-level professionals, PAs, RNs, they're all wonderfully trained health professionals that can deal with most of the issues you see. MDs cause a lot of strain, there's a lot to do with hospital infrastructure, and for a lot of our populations, getting to hospitals is part of the issue, getting appointments in those hospitals. If we rely on the small clinics we already have around the city, we provide more care for those centers, we can use the infrastructure we already have, we can provide more employment opportunities at different education levels, and we can increase the way we actually use the system effectively. Again, going back to the Project Echo Care model, this is how it's been proven to save us dollars and use the resources we already have. We have to look inward, we can't look out. Internet is also important because it's a great equalizer and we can use that as free advertising for the city and make people involved that way. A lot going on there. Thanks.
Next question.
Thank you, sir. Unlike everybody else in the week, that somebody can hear me now. It doesn't matter what my name is. I've got two questions. Tim Keller addressed the homeless issue, and I got here a little later than anybody else. Anybody who hasn't addressed the homeless issue, and the other thing, I'd like to just a short add, who's in favor of making all city business public, no closed city.
When it comes to, I'm running as a Democrat, I'm so glad this is a nonpartisan position because it shouldn't make a difference, I think, especially as mayor. I think we already have like a solution to the homelessness. We have the tiny homes grant that we already got, and we're just not using it. This is so common in the city that we do have the money to use it, but we're not utilizing it right now, and we should be. So transparency is one of the things that we haven't had in the city. We never do. We do have the money for homelessness right now. There is something we can do for them. And I know Heading Home, they said, is a great project. But you know that the administration, the head of Heading Home, took a 7-month leave of absence, a paid leave, while people were freezing to death on the streets. So there is money for the homelessness. It's not being used. I want to know mine. Does anybody else?
I want to touch on the homelessness issue. It's something that's very near and dear to my heart, something I've been working on for many, many years. I go back to the Metropolitan Homelessness Project before Albuquerque Heading Home. As a volunteer and a supporter of that work, I have very dear friends who are near homeless or homeless, and I work every day to try and address that issue. For me, I have a hashtag, and for the social media users in the room, you know that means kind of a saying that's out on social media. And my answer is always slow to say no. When we talk about whether it's Tiny Homes Project or different approaches to homelessness, we need to be slow to say no, because we're not getting the job done. So it's not okay to just say if there's a new idea, no, not in my neighborhood, because this community is our neighborhood. And as long as we have homelessness in our community, it is our neighborhood. So I will tell you that my son and I, at 3 o'clock in the morning, he was 15 years old, and I took him out there in the city of Albuquerque to do a point in time count. If you've never done that, it will give you a whole new perspective on homelessness. We have a perspective that homelessness only is with people who have drug addictions and who battle with alcohol. And Dr. Weiss, you would agree that it is an issue, but it's not the only issue. it's mental health concerns, it's schizophrenia, it's inability to have security in homeless and security in their shelter. And for me, when I was out there doing that point in time count, I saw all types of individuals, all profiles. And I'm here to tell you it's an issue we've got to address from its root, and we can do it together. But let's be slow to say no. Thank you.
Really quickly, one of the things I'm happy to tell you about is the work we've been doing at ABCGC. When we're talking about behavioral health and we're talking about homelessness, you're also talking about substance abuse and addiction as part of that whole thing. We, a few years ago, went through a process, and what we found in that process, and Dr. Weiss was part of this, is that there's a lot of different things going on in the community, but nobody knew what they were doing. There was a lot of disjointed efforts, some of it duplicative. Some of it happening at the county, some of them happening at the city, some of them were individual providers. So we're working to tear down those silos so that we can truly work together and leverage our funding. And that's one way we can address homelessness, behavioral health issues, and addiction. They're all interrelated. Heading homeless was great, but it's its own silo right now. We need to tear down some of those walls and get them engaged with all of the other good programs that are in the community. I also want to touch on the open meetings comment. Bernalillo County has the strongest transparency ordinance in the state, period. You can find everything about Bernalillo County from a IPRA perspective and from a salary and benefits perspective. Every employee is up there. I sponsored that legislation. I am an adherent to IPRA. Open meetings are very important, and I absolutely believe that a closed meeting should only be used in the rarest of circumstances when you have a situation like a negotiation for a legal case, where you have to have some of those negotiations private, otherwise the public loses. So thank you.
First thing I'm going to do is replace that mic.
Good evening, I'm Camille Bados, and I'm a lifer from North Valley, Los Ranchos, so I can endorse the mayor, but to let you know that the city of Albuquerque's mayor affects throughout the county and other municipalities, so I'm here to address. We talked about safety and education and jobs, but I'm here to talk about the equity of process of the art, and I'm going to address the comp plan. I will have, but there was not an equity process for the comp plan that's going to affect everybody here. Rezoning for mixed use, especially our historical areas, who many of them are in the so-called pocket of poverty. The grassroots people were not involved in that process, and we've been spending time going, and our voices are not heard. So I'm addressing to the candidates, Melvin as well, and thank you for committing to this. How are you going to assure with this so-called transparency that there's going to be equity when you're making such rash decisions that are going to affect our properties, our legacies,
that it should have been taken to a vote. The county had to force the city to put it on a vote, and it was 155,000 people said no to art, 38,000 said yes or maybe. That says right there that we didn't need it, we didn't want it, we can't afford it, we're not going to use it, and it's not for us. It's never been about public transportation, because I, for one, think we need better transportation citywide, everywhere. So this art project that was just destroyed on Route 66 was heartbreaking. And we still don't have the money to this day, just a lot of promises from the mayor, who keeps extending the time. Oh, now maybe in August or September we'll get it. He's biding his time, I think, till he gets out of office. Meanwhile, we are still with the problem. As mayor, I still think that we need to do a vote on the people, seeing as we have to pay the taxes on it. We're going to have to pay for the art project. We should vote again, the whole community, to say, again, no, we don't want the art project. 4 lanes are working perfectly. Let's have better transportation citywide and forget about disrupting our only living piece of Route 66.
I took a vote about a year ago in a committee. It was a proposal to put the art project on the ballot. And Clarissa Pena and I, Councilor Pena and I, voted to put the art question on the ballot. And we lost in that committee and never saw it. It never came out of that committee, and we lost that vote. So long before the county had its opportunity to be able to put that question on the ballot, which, by the way, was a resounding no by the people in this community. Ultimately, unfortunately, after all that project had already started, I voted against the $70 million in taxpayer dollars to be used for this project. It was a botched project from the beginning, and it's unfortunate that now we're faced with not even being able to possibly have the funding to be able to complete it. I introduced a bill last night that will take a good, serious look at the functionality of ART before any construction happened and 6 months after it happens. And this bill will put some teeth in helping those landowners, helping those business owners to be able to say, if it doesn't perform as promised, we'll be able to change some of those, at the very least, change some of those directed lanes, open it up to the general public. But this is, again, a project that did not start with the people of Albuquerque recognizing a need and asking their government to help. It happened the other way around. Look, city government is to serve the people of the city and not the other way around.
Well, I think maybe to blend together a couple of those thoughts. Look, I agree too that the process with which it came down was terrible, it was wrong, and I think the design is deeply flawed. It is not helpful for public transit. I agree with Stella, and it's because it was designed exclusively to exclude a lot of communities that use it, like the International District and West Central. So here's what I think we need to do. The new mayor's got to have a vision to make.
No, it's not going out. It is not true. Why don't you support those businesses? Because our reason. They go to Central and support those people.
You don't have to
mind them. I'm sorry, I am. Yes, you can.
So
I am. I'm there daily.
This is the tough thing about the debate that we're having right now. Let me just say this though, the new mayor, regardless of that discussion, the new mayor doesn't start till December 1st. So the new mayor has got to have a plan to make the best out of art. Because, let me tell you, we might have to find a way to pay for it, as was stated, but the new mayor can cut left-hand turn lanes, the new mayor can have undedicated lanes, the new mayor has to fix whatever is there, and that's what I'm committed to, and that means listening to the input that we've all had on this. And the thing I would say about this is, let's make it as best as we can a rapid ride upgrade. Right? It can go over to Cottonwood, it can go to the airport. That's actually going to work for Albuquerque and help the businesses along it. So I think we can make the best of it. It's sort of the lemonade strategy. And on December 1, that's what the new mayor's choice is going to be. And the last thing that I'll share, you asked a structural question. Look, we have to institutionalize community input. Under Mayor Rusk, the Office of Neighborhood Coordination had 30 people in it, and they were in every community center, and their job was to listen to each of you and then tell the mayor and city council what's important. We have totally inverted that, where now that office is like the minister of propaganda that just tells you what to do and what the city's doing. We've got to get back to community governance that listens to people, and we have to institutionalize it with that office. That office should be on your corner and your community center.
Thank you. I'm glad I got an opportunity to finally speak about this. I just want to say that one thing to keep in mind is when you're talking as the mayor of Albuquerque, and I think that I lost you, you were just here, the woman that spoke before, would ask the question. The point is the mayor of Albuquerque's decisions often make impact the community at large. It does impact the greater community. So what we want to make sure is when we're making a decision about policing, we're not just shifting our problem in Albuquerque to our joining citizens. We need to work collaboratively as a region to make sure that's happening. The other part of this is those decisions that are made at the mayor's office, it goes back to what happened here in this community with regard to the waste site. That community members need to be engaged at the very beginning, not at the end. And that's how we need to make sure we're doing this. So yes, we need to make sure we've increased the neighborhood association. The neighborhoods have been completely cut out of all of these decisions. The associations have been locked out, and it is no longer okay. And we need to bring everybody to the table.
Let me just real quickly, because I know that I sat with Ms. Vados through several of those meetings, and I think they're critical. And we need to make sure that we do have that opportunity for community engagement. Unfortunately, enough of these candidates haven't sat through those hearings to understand the lack of inclusion and equality in the conversation, particularly from our historic districts. Thank you.
We've only got time for a couple more questions. Why don't you come on up? Okay. Question number one, Steve.
I've been a supporter of the art project since before it was called art. I know. 4.5 years ago, nearly 5, the president of my neighborhood association, we call it chair, I live in the downtown neighborhood association, a historic district, actually with 4 historic overlays in it, read a letter to our association that there was going to be some talk about a 21st century rapid transportation upgrade. And for those that were interested, we could come to the police substation. Oh no, that was the second one. The first one was in the Special Collections Library, where just drawings were up and ideas, and they were talking about where and how should it be, and how would we finance such a thing, and who would it serve. It wasn't called anything. And then a series of months went by, and then we were called back again, and I signed up and got on the email list. And I talked to other people about it, and then I came back the next time, and it's the same people there. And then months passed, and I came back again, and the same people were there. And eventually, it was decided. Oh, then I went to an Urban Land Institute all-day meeting on it. And we really talked about it, and they were trying to do a big sales job on it. We didn't like the idea of something bus. We thought it was pretty third world, and that we ought to have something that was rail. And then we went back again, and the same people showed up, and the same people showed up. And what the point I'm trying to make is that almost 5 years ago, public outreach was being done to neighborhood associations, and that's where I got mine. And also, with respect to the ABC to Z, the update of the comprehensive plan and the zoning code, I first was informed about that from my city councilor, Isaac Benton's newsletter that I've signed up for years, and I glanced at it, but when I saw that, I knew it was important, and I started attending it. So, they do make attempts to do public outreach. Not everyone's plugged in, not everyone's paying attention, and more of us need to be involved. And I'm not blaming those who didn't show up, but keep your antenna up too. Let's do this together.
They want us out by 8. I think we have time for 2 more questions.
My name is Charles Aragon. Born a politician. You either love the name or you dislike it. Pretty much fear. A lot of us have fear. This whole art project, just like any type of fear, sometimes you gotta toughen up, go through it, face it, do what you gotta go through, do it personally. But you'll get through it, it'll pass. We're looking into the future. In the future, that's how we're thinking, economic development. Things will be better because of this, and what we're trying to do. My question pretty much My mama was the head of the Department of Labor, for the head of the Department, for discrimination, OSCP, you know what I mean, immigration, fought for women's rights, and minorities and everything like that. Pretty much my question is, how do you feel now that this new guy is in office? She kind of took that as a setback. You guys feel the same way? And my other question is, as far as cops, crime's going to happen anyway. I see a lot of beautiful people in these rooms. There should be a whole lot more, but they're out there doing other things they probably shouldn't be doing. You know what I mean? Pretty much, I came here to see people stand up, and I ain't seen nobody stand up yet. You know what I mean? For real. That's all I really got to say.
Thank you for being here and standing up. Surely that's what we're all here to do as well. To talk about exactly some of the discussion we had on immigration to further it, choosing Sanctuary City as the one-sentence solution to undocumented peoples in our communities is not the solution. In fact, that's just saying that you believe that in 2016 what we were doing was good enough, and that is not true. We have to do more. So what do you do after it? How do you connect these communities to services we're trying to provide them? For me, that seems like we go to our public schools. We bolster our public schools so that they become community centers, because those groups are probably, and those families probably have students in those public schools. And if we can connect the resources through the public schools, we get to address them as a unit. We get to address them as a family together and ensure that those families stay together. So when these questions come up, feel free to ask all of us, yeah, but what else? What are you going to do that's more than that? Because if we aren't pushing for it, and if we're just being reflexive to new policies, then we haven't decided to listen to our communities or know our communities in a way that actually serves them. I also have to run away at this point. So sorry, but thank you all for being here so much. Appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Zenzel. I just mortgaged a property on Central 4809 Northeast in May of 2014. Never heard of any of the junk they've been doing. I did my homework. I called the planning department and I said, there's a sector plan that says you're going to do things to widen the sidewalks, make this a more walkable area over here in East Knoxville. I was told, oh no, we're keeping the sector plans just like they are, everything's great, but you might want to call the guy at O'Neill's because he knows some stuff. And I thought, I'm not calling the bar. It turns out he's really involved with all this, but I'm what you could call a stakeholder. And I'm also a massive taxpayer. I may not have big tax bills, like some big corporations, but every time they turn around, I pay more taxes. And I would like to thank people who just raised our grocery receipts tax. I wanted to point out that there are 3 people up here who have held office, and what got me involved in this is research, was hearing on February 11th, 2015, that the mayor of Albuquerque told the media, I'm the mayor and I don't need to talk to city council. I do what I want. And I thought, who is this and where do I live now? I cannot tolerate that. My whole family could not tolerate a statement of that type. So I have, along with Stella, stood out, protested this stuff. I've gone to meetings. I went to a meeting with Susan Deichel. I was basically told, gee, that's nice, we want to hear how you feel. But we don't care about changing the plan. And so I'd like to know what these people think about ramping in the mayor's authority, and why have you not done it yet?
We see a common occurrence in our community, and that is division. I think we're divided over many, many issues because we lack leadership. I'm a CEO, and I made a lot of mistakes. I've lost a lot of money for very important people. And I have to take responsibility for that. When I try and run away from responsibility, the problem only gets worse. And a good leader spends time with their employees. I know that right now a lot of employees in the city tell me, oh, I can't even get into that office. So who is he leading? I'm not sure. I've done a lot of things and thought he was an awesome person, and I'm surprised that these things are happening. But what we need is a good leader. A leader who's not afraid of immigration, because we're divided over these issues that we don't even need to be talking about. Why do we need to classify each other? Yes, it happens. We all stereotype it's a natural survival tool, but it shouldn't be part of our politics. It shouldn't be part of our community. And I believe that if we talk about issues and listen to other people and don't tell them I'm the mayor, I can do whatever I want, that we'll actually find compromise. That's the goal of a politician, is to negotiate and find compromise and listen and be a good leader. And I'm going to do that for you. I've done it for a long time.
The downfall often of elected officials, it always begins when they begin to think that they're a little bit more important than they really are. And they forget to listen. They forget that it's about answering the phone and being available to people and really listening. And so just to address the question, it is inexcusable for a mayor in the city of Albuquerque to not come to the People's Forum, which is the chambers of the city council, and that is inexcusable. As a mayor, I'll be a part of those council meetings, and I'll be close to the people with the greatest concerns in this city. I've had the honor of representing the northwest part of Albuquerque with a lot of different needs, many different needs than some of the needs here in this community here. And many people that may not always agree with everything I did or said, but they said, you know, I may not always agree with that guy, but he's available. When I call his office, he listens, he answers the phone, gives his cell phone out to people, and we need a mayor that's going to be available when that.
I agree with Councilor Lewis. There's a chair in the chambers for the mayor. And I can assure you, if I'm elected mayor, I'll be sitting in that chair for all the council meetings. I can tell you that over the last couple months, I've been to about 50% of the city council meetings, and I've sat through them, and they're long, but they're really important. Because when the public is speaking, that's when the mayor needs to be there listening. Unfortunately, for all these projects that we've talked about, whether it's the waste transfer station or the art project, I have watched city councilor after city councilor point and go, well, it wasn't my idea. It was the mayor's project. How many times do we hear it's the mayor's project on art?
Yes.
Which is fine, provided the mayor is there to answer the questions. If the mayor's not there to answer the questions, it is the city councilor's obligation to get the mayor there to answer questions. Period. If it's my project, I'll be there and I'll be at those council meetings to hear the people of the city.
I just want to add to that, because I do agree, but the mayor should also show up at your neighborhood meetings. And so, you know, I think the root cause here is that if there is a divisive issue in the community, the mayor should show up and face the music. Even if we disagree or agree, it doesn't matter. And what I'm talking about is a lot of these town halls with respect to even the waste station, ART, etc. You know, when there's a divisive issue and the mayor's trying to do something and people don't want it, at a minimum, they should go and have that discussion face to face in people's neighborhood. And that's what I'll do as well as your mayor.
I have just gotten the word that we're out, due to be out at 8, and at this point we won't be able to take any more questions. One last round of applause for everybody here.
This is